Hello, everybody. Welcome to Late Night Baltimore. And we are late night. So we will talk about what's going on here in the news. Let's see. In Hungary, some good news. After 16 years, the Orbán era in Hungary is over. It was a stunning landslide victory on Sunday. Viktor Orbán out, and his Fidesz party handing a constitutional supermajority to Péter Magyar's Tisza party. They get funny names for parties. Record turnout, 80%. Showed just how much Hungarians had become fed up with corruption, cronyism, Orbán's pro-Russia and anti-EU stance. Orbán did concede. We give him that. We're supposed to give him a peace prize because he conceded after 16 years. So that, according to all the so-called experts, that makes him not a dictator because he conceded in a phone call. Okay, we'll get back to that one. As far as cronyism, corruption, pro-Russia, and anti-EU stance, sounds like somebody we know. He built, they say, what is called an illiberal media state. He controlled illiberal state. Controlled the media, courts, the economy. Sounds like even more like somebody that we sort of know. Well, he used loyal allies in the government and in the society, but some problems: a sex abuse scandal, economic struggles, and the blocking of Ukraine aid is what, according to the sources, finally got people fed up. Magyar, the man who ran against him and won, was a former Orbán insider who turned against him. Magyar, I could be saying his name wrong. I am so sorry. This is a map of Hungary behind me. And boy, it's making me hungry. Magyar was a former Orbán insider who turned against him, ran on restoring the rule of law, fixing relationships with Brussels and the EU, putting Hungary firmly back in the Western camp. His win wasn't just a government change, a seismic regime change. What does this mean for Europe? Huge relief for Brussels. Orbán was the EU's biggest headache. He vetoed sanctions on Russia, stalled aid to Ukraine, and slowed everything from enlargement to defense policy. With him gone, vetoes vanish. Expect faster EU support for Kiev, including a frozen 90 billion euro package. Second, very important, it's a blow to Vladimir Putin. Orbán was his best buddy, his most reliable friend inside Europe and NATO. Cheap Russian oil, blocked weapons shipments, the works. He gave Putin everything he wanted. Don't want to go back to that old chestnut. It keeps sounding like someone we know. Losing that foothold weakens Russia's influence in Central Europe, thank God, because as someone, except for the current powers, the people in power, most people understand that Russia is trying to take over all of Europe, beginning with Ukraine, and they're going to keep marching for their empire. But we used to understand that you were supposed to be against that, but not no more. Now it seems to be okay to just let Russia do what they want. But this This affects Russia's stronghold and influence in Central Europe. It's a symbolic win for democracy himself. Orbán was a populist right wing across the continent. He was a symbol of it. And his defeat shows entrenched authoritarians are not invincible. Even after years of stacking the system. Of course, the hard part starts now. Magyar has to unwind a deeply entrenched network of loyalists in the courts, media, and economy. It won't be easy. Or quick. For example, the source here points out what Poland's been through. But with a 2/3 majority win for Magyar, and mostly it was a rebuff of Orbán, Magyar has the tools to start rebuilding independent institutions and unlocking billions in frozen EU funds. Bottom line, Europe just got a bit more united and a little less obstructed, and the whole world a little more hopeful. The Orbán chapter is closed for now. A new pro-European Hungary is trying to emerge. Whole continent of Europe, the whole world is watching. Now, let's think of a few things. We had an authoritarian figure, who was in power, but I think Orbán was a guy who was Trump. If Trump actually tried and studied, but we had one in power, and he did damage to all these institutions, and he fought against a lot of what are our traditions of democracy, and he got back in power and was much worse. And Trump was called a populist, which the only definition I have is that it's a thin in the middle theory, but how they explain it. What is a populist, you say? That's what I asked. Someone who says, I'm on the side of the regular people against the corrupt elites. They stir up strong emotions, play to people's fears, try to position themselves as an outsider fighting the system, even as they run the system for years. Orbán was a populist. He spent 16 years running against the EU, the liberal or progressive media, put the idea of a whole globalist elitist thing in there. Every election he won was Hungary versus the evil EU trying to erase the Hungarian culture. Classic populist. Another aspect of populism, as people think about it now, is that they play to people's fears. They play to the people who they can get out to vote their fears. They have simple solutions that seem to work for a very short time. They appear to work. For example, if you make huge tax cuts for 1 or 2 years, a stimulus in the economy will happen. Stimulation for the economy will happen, but when the checks come due, and you do things that are easy and simple and sound good, when you have to pay the pay the bill, everything collapses. And somebody who's willing to do all the hard work has to come in and save the day, take the United States and Trump, and then Biden had to come in and do all the dirty work and pay the political price for doing the right things. All right. How does Trump compare to Orban? Well, there's a sort of a similarity. They really attack the press. They put their sycophants in, they get them in position of power and media. They go against the rest of the world traditions, and they're buddies with Putin. Orban, he dismantled all the checks and balances, and Trump has done it only because he has been given the courts and the legislature to do whatever he wants. So there are a lot of similarities. Don't rule out that Orban will be hanging around and run again, just like Trump. Orban's only 62 years old, so he's not done. If this new guy has to run into some problems of a difficult nature, nuanced problems like immigration, it's easy to just go order everybody into jail. Then this guy, Orban, could absolutely come back. In 2030 it would be. Now the politicians keep coming back, keep running back, staying in power. Think of how long Putin's been in power and Netanyahu have been in power. They just don't go away like they used to. All right. Luckily, fortunately, we have sort of a constitution. I mean, we have a constitution that the current occupant of the White House doesn't listen to, but is very concrete in cutting off his term limits. So that is what saves us. That is something that gives us all hope to get through all this nightmare we've been going through. Okay, everybody. I tried to put in my 2 cents about the Orban situation. He gone. Glad he gone. Anything to fight against Putin and unite Europe again. Well, that's all great news. Okay, everybody, like and subscribe and enjoy the rest of the Baltimore night. And tell your friends about us and F MAGA. Okay, everybody, good night.
Big Rooster.